Good morning. You're with Jane Turner on Your Creative Journey, Bondi Radio, 9 a.m. Sydney time, but for our listeners all over the world, it is whatever time it is, but it's the right time to be tapping into your creative thoughts, your creative process. And I have a wonderful guest here today, Joel Annesley. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you, Jane. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I must say, I'm a little bit just mesmerised by looking out at those waves.
Oh, look, we are in one of those places where you think, well, if you're not going to be happy here, I don't know where.
That's right.
Because the sun is shining. I actually quite like cloudy days at the beach as well, but now I remember why. When the sun is shining, that blue is a blue that is mesmerising. I think your wording is good there, Joel.
Really, and unfortunately, I feel like I'm a bit overdressed. I didn't get the dress code.
You didn't.
I need my shorts
didn't either.
and t-shirt.
You see, I come and boldly walk to a beach suburb that I'm a person who really doesn't go to the beach very much, and I'll go to the beach to have breakfast by the sea.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of go sand and this kind of thing, but I look at other people and I think, oh, they must think, what, is this woman a real estate agent, or some of those people who also live and work here but have a different agenda?
Yeah. Well,
but we're just being us.
Exactly.
That's okay.
Exactly. And some prefer the beach from a distance.
Oh, yes. Yes, look, the beach, the energy, though, isn't it something that's quite palpable?
Yes.
Quite. Now, look, let's talk about your book.
Okay.
Because you are so close to the finishing line. Even I get a little kind of rush of adrenaline when I think of that. And the person I met 12 months ago, this is an incredible journey you've been on, and the transformation to me is incredible. But what I want to hear about is, let's share with everybody here what your book's about and why,
certainly.
and what brought you to this place now.
Certainly. Look, thank you, Jane, and I think we titled this episode today Creative Confidence, which is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And what I've really come to understand is when you tap into your true creative potential, you naturally develop confidence within yourself. And I say this because, my book is actually called Quiet Confidence, and it's a reflection on my journey. As a child, I always identified as, the shy child. I look back now, I actually see two different personalities.
Nice, okay.
There's the young creative child, that was a bit of a tech whiz as well, and always had a few, amazing dreams that I wanted to strive for, but the other personality was, I was just overrun by shyness.
Oh yes, it's a tough thing for kids, for adults it's such a tough thing.
And it got to the point where it was the story I was telling myself. It's the story, when you collect various pieces of evidence in your life to make up a story, you start to believe it's actually true.
Is it? And we're not only collecting that evidence, we're creating that evidence as well, aren't we? I love your awareness, but of course if only you could have had that awareness when you were 7 or 8.
Exactly.
But not at all is it a problem though, because that is part of what's brought you here. That's the Joel Annesley that is about to change the world.
Well, that's it, Jane. And I really I reflect on this idea of this creative journey has changed the way I look at the world. And a big part of that has been writing this book.
Yes.
And when you actually make the decision to write a book, it's a huge commitment. And you have to take it seriously, because you're giving up many hours.
Oh, you bet. That's right. And taking it seriously and buying in 100%. Yes, keep going.
And I think one of the big things with writing a book is there's a lot of mindset hurdles you actually have to go through.
Isn't there, though?
To actually make the commitment to say, I'm going to do this, you know. So once you get over that initial hurdle, you make the commitment,
yes,
you're doing it, you're going to follow through, then you're actually going through the journey of writing, and there's a whole lot of stuff that comes up.
That's it.
At that point. So interesting for me, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. What's so special about me?
Oh,
that
this
I
is one
can
of
write
these.
a book?
Yes.
And you sort of and you know, you reflect on some wonderful books out there, and you then reflect on your own experience and say, well, what have I done in my life that anyone would want to read about? I've
heard this many times,
yes,
Joel.
Yes. And the thing is when you deep dive into your own story, you get beyond that initial mindset limitation, and you realise just how powerful your story is.
Beautiful. Can I link that to the fact that we're here at Bondi Beach, and if you've ever been stuck in a rip, and it doesn't happen so much at Bondi, but by God, a couple of beaches around at Bronte Beach. When I first arrived, green as green can be, from Canberra to Sydney, and the friends that I was living with at the time said, we've got to take you down to Bronte.
Yeah.
And of course I try and act as if I know what to do in the surf, and I just dive in. Well, Bronte has some of the strongest rips, and I reckon it was potentially going to be the shortest life span in Bondi, in Sydney, I should say, ever, because I thought I was done for. I didn't know how I could get back. And one of my friends said, go under, go down. Then and this is exactly what you're saying. Get yourself out of the wash, out of the rip, out of the kind of being, almost feeling like you're thrown around in a dryer after the washing's been done, and just go down under. And it is quiet, and there is a peace there. And this is where I'm a little different to some writing coaches, because I've done a whole meditation to help my clients to go down, is where the true creativity will emerge.
Exactly.
Yes, and you're on that page. You were on that page from the get-go. Other people I have to really help to see that, no, it's not being frantic. It's not writing when you're stressed. Don't even try. You're in the wrong part of the brain. You're in your primitive part of the brain. You have no access to, well, firstly, willpower. Willpower relies on your ability to see the consequences of not doing what you're avoiding doing because it feels too hard or too painful or whatever. You need to be able to see the consequences, and you also need access to your languaging skills, to your ability to organise information, and this is one of the many reasons why I have that tool now for people, but you, as I say, understood.
Well, it's getting beyond that mindset chatter, that surface level chatter, and reflecting on the experience of meeting you, which was I think just over 12 months ago, coming along to your event, I went, there was just an instant connection. I went, Jane gets it. And Jane's been where I need to go next. And so that's why, you know, that's why I said I've got to be on this journey. It's such a simple decision. But see, for me, I had been through, and I was reflecting on, do you do much goal setting?
I'm not a huge goal setter. It may surprise you to hear that. I'm not a huge, but I do make the little goals.
Yes.
You know, what is it today? What is it for the next week?
Exactly.
I'm not a really big planner out ahead.
Yes. I reflected with my coach recently the fact that I have a toxic relationship with my goals.
Ooh, okay. What came out when you said those words to your Joel is lucky to be, you know, investing in himself in this way with more than I'm the book writing coach, but the other coach. What happened when you said those words?
I came to the realisation that, and I think many of us do this when we set goals. We often do it at the start of the year, and we set the 12-month goals. and we get to the end of the year and we just feel a sense of dread, failure, you know, and it's because we're not setting realistic goals.
This is it. Okay, and not giving ourselves perhaps the support that we need
Exactly.
to get them.
Yes, yes.
Because you could have been that person having that experience right now of
Exactly.
regret and loss and potentially hopelessness, whatever your version of, my God, 12 months ago,
Exactly. And
I was saying I would get a book done and I haven't done anything about it.
Happened. Nothing happened. And then I'm reflecting on this year and go, wow, like there's just been so many little things that have happened, and the journey on, you know, being on this journey of writing a book has just, it's been incredible.
Good.
So maybe I should reflect on, what would you like me to reflect on?
I want you to say a little bit
little bit
more
more.
about your book, actually, the actual content
The
in there.
content.
What will people get? And we spoke about shyness, but I don't think we said that the subtitle is
Yes.
Breaking Up with Shyness.
So
when you said to me, breaking up with shyness, because I had to do that. I did have a divorce from shyness. There's no way I could have built the business that I've now built if I stayed really safe and like a tortoise inside of its shell. There's no way I could have done what I've had to do to be able to reach people in the way that I was able to reach you.
Well, that's it, Jane, and I think the natural tendency with shyness is that we want to retreat. We want to feel safe. Because shyness is linked to fear. And it's the overbearing mind that detects fear a little bit too much. I call it the safety switch. You know, on the power meter, you know how you'll turn on the appliance and it just switches off?
Yes.
Well, it's a bit like that.
That's a beautiful
within your
analogy.
brain, and it just keeps happening. And what happens is if you let it take over for too long, shyness transforms into different personalities, like social anxiety and many other different things, which leads to regret. It leads to a feeling of missed opportunity.
Yes.
You know, and that's how I open the book. I say I would hate to fast forward to the end of my life and live with regret for the fact that I wasn't able to move beyond shyness. And I think one of the great awakenings is, you know, people like Susan Cain with Quiet.
Oh, yes.
It's really stepping in and embracing the introvert personality.
I'll pull that up a little closer, I think, Joel. There we go.
And
Yes, embracing the introvert.
And really having the distinction between the introvert and shyness being two completely separate things.
Talk a bit more about that.
Yes.
Because that's an important distinction. I get it now. I don't think we've had this conversation before.
So I think for me as a child, I was naturally an introvert, naturally curious about the world. You know, my
curious introvert.
Curious introvert. You know, sensitive. You know, my parents always detected that. You know, they said as a child you were always very sensitive to loud people that were angry. You know, and you had a problem with that, and you sort of retreated.
Got it.
And I reflect upon in the book, you know, my experience of being a grade one. You know, who actually has that reflection and goes back to childhood? Because I often say, when I was a child, all I wanted to do was fast forward until I got to an adult and I had found my confidence. I just wanted to fast forward the awkwardness of childhood. And I think one of the biggest learnings that I've found in life is to actually go back to your childhood and be okay with it.
Now, be okay, yes,
find an inner peace.
Oh wow! And you actually went literally back very recently.
Yes, I did.
And
actually.
what did you find?
Oh wow!
What did you find? You
showed
me at the weekend.
I think Jane, I must have been a bit of a hoarder because
That's right.
I went through like a box of stuff and I actually found my old, you know, report cards.
Beautiful.
And I opened it up and I'm almost in tears because it's it's going back over those old stories and coming back to today, realising you've had leaps, light years ahead from where you were back then, and so I'm reading, what my teachers are saying, that Joel is a shy child. He has difficulties relating to his peers and all this sort of stuff, and that's stuff that I read back then, and that story is part of why I took on that persona of being shy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the interesting thing is I'm reading back over this report card, and it actually says Joel is quietly confident.
Oh.
And when I read that, I went, so there was
the seed
way back then that I never saw. That my quiet confidence has been there all along. I just had to tap into it.
And that was a benefit that you had to, and whether, if you unpack it a little bit more, what's it to do with? Is it to do with self-worth? Is it to do with what I'm curious, more and more curious the more I talk to you about this.
Look, I think it is self-worth, Jane. We're talking about this idea of stepping into our confidence, but the first thing that we have to do is look at our story.
Yes. Look at our story and
get uncomfortable before you can get comfortable.
Fair enough. Yes.
And that can be a very difficult thing to do, but the act of writing.
Yes.
The act of writing your story is extremely powerful.
It certainly is.
And when you lose attachment to the outcome and you just enjoy the journey, the journey of writing, you'll be amazed at what actually comes out onto the page. It doesn't happen every day. You do hit writer's block on some days. I'm just going, this is just not this is not flowing. I'm not cut out for this. I'm not a writer. Yes. I'm not an author. Yes. All these limiting beliefs come to the surface.
That's right.
But they're all the limiting beliefs that you've had from your childhood.
That's it.
So you have to really allow it to come to the surface and simply acknowledge. Notice, acknowledge, and then what I'm always saying is, this is brilliant content for your book. This is content. Everything is content now. Yes.
I go on this like a crazy woman about this, but that is absolutely what people are going to be wanting to read that book for, to see that I'm not alone.
Exactly.
I am not alone.
And that's a big part of it too, is to normalise this idea of shyness.
Sure.
Because when you really step into your own experience, we often I often draw the similarity between shyness and coming to terms with my sexuality. When I was a young child, we feel like we're the only one.
Yes.
We're the only one that must be going through this experience.
Yeah.
And when we normalise, when we acknowledge that there are, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that suffer with shyness and feel like they're held back by it. I mean, what is
and are actually held back by it?
And I mean, look, what is one of the number one fears? Is public speaking.
Public speaking. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And there you are. You have now run workshops. You're now speaking to many thousands of people, Joel, right at this very moment. And look at you, you're in your power.
Well, I think one of the most amazing things that happened recently for me was, and we reflected earlier on the idea of meditation, the power of meditation, and this is one of the greatest tools for really working on yourself to develop your own, self-worth, self-confidence. But something recently that happened within my own workplace is our lovely receptionist Jodie stumbled across one of the meditations that I recorded on YouTube a number of years ago.
It's a small world indeed,
though,
isn't it? I love this.
And I just laughed. I just went, how funny is that? You just don't realise the seeds that you sow.
Impact.
You know, that's right. That the little things that you do over time come back to you.
You bet.
And so, you know, from that one little conversation, it was just so funny. She said, I'm getting into meditation. She said, I listened to this track. It was good, but I found it distracting because it sounded so much like you. And I think I was blushing at that moment, Jade, because I'm thinking.
Because you knew.
I'm just like, yeah, it's yeah.
Probably was me.
Could be. Because to this day, that particular meditation, and who knew that it was going to reach
how many
thousands.
people? Do you know the stats on that?
I honestly can't remember, but it's thousands that it has reached, and the amount of comments. And can I just say how amazing it is when you send something out and you have no idea what sort of reaction you're going to get.
You don't know the impact. You do not know the
idea
impact.
Of putting yourself out there to the I'm going to say community, the universe, whatever word you want to use here, but this idea of putting yourself out there.
Yes, and I'm going to put in a word there, putting the real you out there too. You know, let's just cut through some of the bullshit that the airwaves are full of.
Yes.
And this is just the average person who has overcome the thing that was holding them back from sharing their important message.
Exactly.
You know?
And to get all these messages
that you're on the right track, that we need this is needed.
That it's needed. And you know, that really set me on my path around wanting to become a coach and step into my power, step into confidence.
Yes. So if I reflect back, in fact, so you had mentioned that you came to my half-day workshop where I give a bit of an introduction about how I managed to write my book, which was a 5-year odyssey of coming to terms with that, stepping into your story, being real about it. Nothing is out of bounds. There's nothing. When I launched my book, I looked at my daughter and her friends in the audience. And the thing that I was driven to say to those girls is that there is nothing so shameful, so unspeakable about you that you have to keep locked away and that you have to stay small around so that nobody finds out. Because that was my journey. That was why it took 5 years. It could have taken 10. It could have taken forever to get my book written if I didn't stumble on one amazing tool. And I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to mention it again because I think it may have been when you watched the YouTube video of the hero's journey. This is mandatory for my people, because if you look at Joseph Campbell, he wrote the great book Hero of 1,000 Faces. Now, we're time poor. If you don't have time to read the book, Google, YouTube, Hero's Journey, and the first one that comes up is a TED-Ed video, and it takes you beautifully through the Hunger Games is the story that they use to demonstrate this. There are other videos that will use The Wizard of Oz or Harry Potter or Star Wars or whatever, and it will show you that in fact, yes, we're all on a journey. We're all on probably several journeys at the one time. But for me and for you too, as it turns out, the hero's journey that we were on is to write a book. And the YouTube video, if you watch it now, you will see that it sort of paints the journey onto a clock. You know, the time, you can look at it, and at the 6 o'clock point, so down in the bottom, you've gone way the hell out of your comfort zone. And the vision that came up for me when I was so goddamn out of my comfort zone was the one that's in Star Wars when Luke Skywalker is facing off with Darth Vader.
Yes.
And in fact, what is he really facing off against? He's facing off against the dark side of himself, the stuff that he didn't want to own, that he didn't want to acknowledge. And for me, it was like, it took my breath away that I had just been stuck at 6 o'clock for a long time, and it hurts like hell at 6 o'clock, and in some ways it has to, if it's going to take a lot of courage. My God, isn't that what it takes in the end?
When you actually break through,
wow.
It's like, I'm a new person.
You're not the same person I met. That's for sure, Joel.
But I think the reminder, and I'm glad you brought the hero's journey up, and reflecting on my own creative journey. I actually went and studied. I did the Bachelor of Creative Industries.
Yes, you did.
So I was introduced to this idea, but it wasn't until coming along to your event where I actually realised the hero's journey could be really understood from my own perspective, my own life and my journey.
That's it.
And I think that was one of the big aha moments. And I just said, I have to do this.
Yes. Because of course then the other thing that happens to people who do opt in, of course the hero's journey might be about running a marathon or climbing a mountain. It might be actually starting a business. My whole experience of starting the business has been a really big hero's journey. But the point about this is then that got you over a big part of what had held you back.
Exactly.
But what I find, and I think this is definitely, because you've never missed one of these, you've never missed one of these opportunities to come into a space with other writers where what we do is we share regularly, at least on a monthly basis, we share where we're up to, what we might have had by the way of barriers in the last month, not to mention the fact you can just pick me up when you're hitting another barrier, but sometimes it's more helpful to share it with a small group of people. We talk about that, and then we all just go off, and I could hear a pin drop, except for the fact that the amount of noise that a whole lot of keyboards going like crazy makes. I just look around and I go, whoa, that just happened. There's a space here that people come into, and it could be any space. It's about you set the intention, and this is me saying to you, if you're wanting to write a book, if you're wanting some tapping into creativity that you feel blocked about, make a space for yourself, set an intention, and that will help. If you need more help, find the teacher, the mentor, the person that you'll hear about when you look at the hero's journey video.
Or Jane, the babysitter.
The babysitter.
Simon Sinek mentioned on
Say
the
more about that.
Say more.
Say, yes.
Yeah. I think that I laughed when he's being interviewed about how on earth can you produce all these books and do what you do, and he said, I'm actually really bad at sitting down and managing my time. He said, I actually hire a babysitter to come in and watch me, make sure I'm actually getting the work done. And I think what it comes down to is having that accountability. And with starting any new thing, like writing a book, you're setting a new habit.
Sure.
And it takes time to actually get into that rhythm. So creating the time, the regular time, is very, very important.
Yes. And just to go into who Simon Sinek is, of course, he's now famous for his book about finding your why.
The why, yeah.
And, someone who's famous like that, someone who has such deep understanding and such wonderful ability with words and getting a message across. And we think, he needs a babysitter to enable him to be able to do that.
To do it.
So we acknowledge what it is that we need, and then it comes back to the self-worth. Well, I'm worth this.
Exactly.
I am worth this investment, whatever the investment is, to be able to do the important work that I'm being called to do. Again, more hero's journey language. You've had the calling.
Exactly, Jane. And I'm glad you mentioned, this whole why
Yes,
So-
let's hear your why, Joel.
And can I just say, and I'm not sure who said it. It might have been Simon, but the statement, your why should make you cry.
Yes.
Like your
It's
why
true.
should
Touch
stir
you so
something up
deeply.
inside you that emotionally, like you just start
Oh,
to
God.
feel grateful.
Grateful.
Gratitude. Somehow I'm on the right track, and I'm, full steam ahead. But for me, and it happened, I think, about a month ago.
Okay.
And I was going through. I really got into one of the stories as I was writing. I really got into one of my own stories, and I realised
Oh, yes.
just how powerful it was for me to tell that story, because
Joel.
I'm not the only one who has gone through this. And I'm reflecting on this idea of, a big part of, the debilitating shyness has come from those early years, reflecting on the education system.
Yes.
So
I'm glad we got to this. That's one of my favourite topics too. Yes.
Where, look, at the end of the day, I think sometimes your creativity can be shut down.
Can indeed. Yes.
Indeed. And, it's the Ken Robinson, isn't it?
Yes.
When we're talking about this idea of, somehow we're not often encouraged to really tap into our inner creativity. But the funny thing is, I actually think it's starting to change. And I think,
yes.
when you read about, future trends, we're talking about creativity being one of the greatest skills that you can develop.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I actually think that inherently we are all creative.
You bet.
And many of us say, no, I don't have a creative brain in my body. But I actually think that's a lie, because we're tied up on this idea of having the medium as the creative outlet. So like when I'm reflecting on this idea of you don't have to be creative in a particular medium. Like you don't have to be a painter.
Exactly.
You don't have to.
It's a narrow definition.
It's a very narrow definition.
We don't need to buy into that.
And it's this idea from my perspective as well as changing my identity around. And I share your background when you mentioned when I first came to your event, you spoke about your journey in the public service.
Oh yes.
And for me, I finished my creative degree and found myself in the cutthroat print media industry, and a few years of doing that, my partner and I at the time, we relocated to Canberra, and I found myself within the public service, and my thought process at the time was like, oh,
what's
here
happened
I am,
here?
this is where my creative dream comes to die, I know that sounds harsh.
It's harsh as how you felt.
But it's how I felt.
And it's what could have happened.
It's what could have happened.
Well and truly. If you're talking to me when you're just about to retire at 65, and that's the way you feel, well, that is many people's life.
Exactly.
Hands out that way.
But I'm coming back to this idea of it doesn't matter what environment you're in.
No.
You can embrace your inner creativity. You can be in the public service if you want to and still be creative. You can be in any environment. But back then, I felt like, and I reflect on this in the book, this almost like two personalities that I developed. I had my, and I used the Clark Kent Superman, which is hilarious. But the idea of being the quiet, shy guy behind the desk, and then when I got home, back then I was trying to develop my own creative business, and for me, really leveraging the skills that I picked up from my creative industries degree, I was really passionate about telling stories using film and TV, that sort of medium.
Wow.
So I thought, okay, so let's set up a video production company. I thought this is fantastic.
Perfect.
But what happened, Jane, is I tried to tap into my creativity without having the confidence.
Oh, hello, this is nice. We've really kind of tapped a vein here, haven't we? We've tapped a vein big way.
So the interesting thing is I was so focused on the medium,
All right.
but not actually my own story, and I wasn't working on my own self.
Okay.
So what did I do? I actually ran myself into the ground.
Okay.
You know,
Yes.
so the
yes.
years following, I did my best, but I call it I reached burnout period.
All right. Yes. Not
When you
uncommon,
get
unfortunately.
where you get to the period and you just say, I can't do this anymore. I've got to rethink my strategy. I've got to do something different.
Yeah.
Because this just isn't working. Because part of me was saying, well, I'm enjoying the creative outlet, but something was missing. Something was definitely missing.
Yes.
And the other thing is I wasn't coming back to this confidence thing, I wasn't valuing my time. So
Oh, yes.
I was underselling my services. I was making them far too cheap. That's a very common thing for many of us to do, especially in the creative industries as well.
Well,
like this
yes.
idea of creating a piece of work and then putting a price tag to it.
Oh,
Jane.
wow. Well, of course, the person I interviewed a couple of sessions ago now, Monica Davidson, has built a whole business around helping creative people not to either burn out or go broke or be ripped off.
Exactly.
Her business is Creative Plus Business. I don't mind giving that a plug because it is so wonderful what she can do to people. And you didn't, of course, you've met her now, but you didn't
I have
meet
met her
her
briefly, and
when
I
you
need to have
before.
more discussions with her.
Well, look, what I will say,
Yes.
of course, now we're in Sydney, and I know I'm not talking to everybody in Sydney or everybody in Australia. Some of our listeners are in the UK and in America and all over the place. But for people who are in Sydney, the state government has funded people like Monica to provide 4 full hours completely free of charge to people working in creative industries. So you need to tap into that, Joel. And if anybody wants more information about that, be in touch with me at writewithjane.com or just Google Monica Davidson Creative Plus Business, because we don't want to see any more of that happening than
That's
absolutely necessary.
That's right, and I really think, if you are stepping or you're embarking on a creative endeavour, you really need to make building your confidence a priority.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Because don't do what I did and find yourself in burnout and just going, I have to go back to try and rebuild. Try and rebuild my confidence, and it's not an easy journey.
It's not an easy journey, but I might say too, it's not. You often don't know where the twists and turns are going to take you. That you perhaps didn't realise at all that the writing the book was going to be one of the bigger tools that you found worked for you. In terms of getting confident, getting comfortable with your story, dealing with any of the shit before it hits the pan.
Exactly.
Yes. You can be sitting here talking about it now, knowing that you're not being triggered like crazy, because this is when we hear people talking and they're just not quite right yet. And it was with you, that feeling that you were doing the business that you thought you wanted to be doing, but it wasn't just quite working. And it was just a timing thing.
Exactly.
Because what did you mention to me the other day that brings you almost full circle? The book, and the next step beyond the book is the documentary.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God. I almost jumped into the air when you said that, because I can see that.
Well,
happening now. I can absolutely see there's no way you won't make that documentary, Joel.
Well, I think reflecting on that, Jane, actually producing a documentary has been one of my life goals. And it's always been in the back of my mind.
Yes.
And I went, oh well, one day I will get to it.
Yes.
Well, when does that one day, unless you actually define when that one day is, it always gets moved back.
Yes.
And that's quite prevalent for many goals that we set. Unless we actually put a time frame around it, we keep pushing it back.
Yes.
But what I wanted to say about this is, so you know, part of me is doing all this video production. I'm going, but I'm not making the documentary I was supposed to make.
That's
you know?
it. You were making other people's product into intellectual property, I should say, into a product for them.
And this is the journey, and this is the learning, is to be able to be confident to go from behind the camera to in front of the camera, right?
Yes.
And that's breaking up with shyness.
That is breaking up with shyness, yes.
So this idea of, you know, telling not only my story, but also connecting up with others like me who have experienced debilitating shyness and have seen the light and have been able to turn it around and achieve some, you know, just wonderful things in their life. And
absolutely.
Just to encourage other people that you know, it's possible.
Yes, it's
achievable.
Yes.
We just have to get down to those deeper layers in the mind, where the calmness is, you know.
That's it.
Yes. To get beyond that mindset chatter. So the documentary, I've actually recently made the decision that it's no longer on hold, it's actually happening.
Excellent.
It's happening.
Yes.
That coming back to this idea, and I want to come back to that.
I might push this a little closer again, Joel, just because of your beautiful voice. You and you go a little quieter when you're getting close to the really important stuff.
I'm making a point here.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
Yes, if I can only remember what point that was.
No, the point was about the documentary, and that it's about now bringing that, getting from behind the camera to in front of the camera, and bringing that now into your mind's eye, firstly, isn't it? You know, allowing yourself to dream big.
Exactly.
Bigger. You know, the book was a dream. It was a big dream. If you can do the book, you can do the documentary. If you can do the documentary, what else can you do?
That's right. And this is the realization around, you know, having big dreams. And I reflected on earlier around this idea of having a toxic relationship with my goals because I had emotionally disconnected from the dream. And I think that's actually many of us actually go through that stage where we actually no longer feel like our dreams are achievable. And
to survive that, and the maybe trauma's too big of a word, but there's some trauma about disconnecting with a dream. But as you say, you disconnect your emotions.
Yes.
Emotionally
so
disconnect.
You actually disconnect your emotions, and this is something I went through a number of years ago, where I felt like I had just numbed things out. You know, I had numbed the emotions.
Numbing.
So it was this idea of, instead of working towards big dreams, I was just going to have a drink of, you know, another drink, and I sort of think, well, you know, it's nice to have the occasional drink, but when it becomes an unhealthy relationship, then
it's the same, isn't it, with whatever we might do, whatever. Yeah, sure, watching something on Netflix isn't a problem unless you're using it to numb the feeling.
To numb.
So that it doesn't hurt, that you're not living the life that you know you really want to be living.
That's right. That's right. And I actually think it's really important to be able to acknowledge that it's still possible.
Yes. Oh,
you know, it's like
never say never.
Never say never. It doesn't matter how old you are. You know, and I talk about this idea of when you're young, you think you're too young, you can never achieve anything.
Okay, yes.
And now I'm in my 30s. Some of the thoughts I've had is, oh, geez, I've missed the boat on that. You know, and then I laugh at myself and I say, well, that is just the mindset.
It's
bull that goes.
That's bullshit.
On. Yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Oh wow, but doesn't mean we're wrong for doing that, for thinking that, because these things, you know, we are human.
Exactly.
But the power is in noticing that, and noticing that it's limiting in whatever way that it is, and then noticing that there's a choice.
Exactly.
I've just finished my book, Mindset for Authors, How to Overcome Perfectionism, Procrastination and Self-Doubt. And I have a chapter on choice.
Excellent.
Because we may have excuses, we may have reasons, we may have a whole lot of things going on in our life, but at the end of the day, we choose whether we let that stop us doing what we need to be doing, or whether we work around it. Go over, go under, go around, get help, whatever. Put it on hold, leave doubt at the door. Yes. I say that with my introductory workshop. I need one commitment from you, and that is that you leave doubt at the door. You open your mind, it won't hurt too much. Keep it open for a couple of hours, and I want you to go from can't to can. And this is, that's kind of my why. Joel?
Jane, it makes me think of that wonderful tool. I don't know if you've read the book, Mel Robbins, The 5-Second Rule.
The 5-second rule, it's certainly been going around Facebook. Yes, talk about it, Joel, because not everybody has.
It's actually a really powerful tool, and it's this idea that instead of reactively making decisions, and it's very prevalent for, if you've got that shy personality, to allow that mindset to just go, oh no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to shy away from that. So the idea is that you bring an active choice. When you see an opportunity comes up, in that moment, in your head, you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you just simply, you either say, yes, I'm doing this, or no, I'm not doing this. But the key is it's an affirmative decision. You're making an active choice.
And that's a powerful thing to do.
It's a very powerful thing to do.
Yes, that neither deciding not to write the book in the end or deciding to write the book takes, you're not leaching energy out of your system. Kind of, it's the classic procrastination. Yes, I will write the book one day. I will write the book, not today for this reason or not. Look, if you decide to write the book, you take a whole lot of pressure off. And if you decide not to write the book, you take a whole lot of pressure off. Don't be sitting in
the space in
yes
the
and
middle.
No and yes and no and yes and no. There's plenty of better things to do with life.
Exactly. And it's actually very empowering when you make a decision.
Oh, and exactly. We have the right to make a decision. We don't have to please everybody. We don't have to keep every option open if it is crippling us in its own way. That whole, well, I could do this or I could do that. We'll just make a decision about what is the right thing for you to do in this moment, right here and right now. And of course you've got to be in this moment right here and right now to really make good decisions, which is a whole other kettle of fish.
Oh, yes.
Which brings us back to, again, the meditation, or when we look at really what works about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stops us thinking for a minute, doesn't it? It stops us running around like a mouse on a wheel inside our brain.
Yeah. And so can I reflect upon the story I was telling you earlier about the opportunity that came out of my workplace recently was to run mindfulness sessions.
Absolutely.
And
yes,
I was reflecting on the experience of being at I think it was Bondi Beach about a month ago now, and here I am, quietly confident, running a mindfulness session. And in that moment I'm thinking, this is me quietly stepping into my power.
That thought. And how long did that feeling stay with you?
I was on a high.
At least a day, a couple of days or more. You know you're doing the right thing, don't you, when that happens?
Exactly, and I think that's the important thing, Jane, is when we find those little pieces, it might be really, really minor. You might think it's minor.
Yes.
But make it a big deal for you, for yourself.
Remember to celebrate.
Remember to celebrate. It's so important to do that.
I love that.
Celebrate the small things, the small wins.
Yes. Yes.
Because there are plenty of them. We just have to notice them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now back to your book, Joel.
Yes.
What's your favourite part of your book so far?
That's That's a really good question. Because when you go through the journey of writing a book, for a good part of it, you actually think it's crap.
No. I remember you saying to me, oh my God, this is ugly baby syndrome I'm having at the moment. I can't stand the sight of this thing.
I was wondering if we should actually make that analogy, but
I've done it. Sorry, cat's out of the bag. Because you just made me smile when you said that, because it is so, you sort of can't look away, but you don't want to look at it either. It's like a train wreck at times.
Yes.
This is what happens. You've got to get so comfortable with the discomfort, and this is what stops people, though. This breaks my heart, that it stops people because they're afraid to see that they don't write the perfect first draft.
Exactly.
Nobody does, folks. Nobody does.
Yeah. And the biggest thing I'm going through at the moment is, and I was reflecting with you on the weekend, is when you're actually going through and deleting.
Oh yes, deleting can be hard.
It can be
hard, but it's so important. But
there's a lot of power in, if it's not perfect, writing it anyway.
Oh, you've got to do that. You've got to. Yeah, all the sort of 99% of the people who say they want to write a book and never get it done don't come to terms with that.
And for me, that's a huge thing to do, coming from the ultimate perfectionist.
That's right.
I think. I want things to be perfect, and no wonder, and it's that shyness personality as well. You don't, you overthink things.
Oh, that's
you don't say things in the moment. You do it later.
Analyse the bejesus out of an idea.
Exactly. I love that.
Oh man.
So learning to actually be comfortable with how it's flowing in the moment is very powerful. And there's something nice about writing, because and I talk about your book or your Word document being your safe space.
Yes, nice.
It is your safe space, and you can write down and have this understanding that it's not yet published, so you're not yet revealing it to the world. So let the stuff come out on paper.
That's a beautiful way to look at it, Joel. Thank you.
Yeah. And I talk about this idea of and then slowly start to expand your safe space. And that's learning to become more vulnerable.
Yes.
It's that vulnerability thing, right?
Isn't it? Yes.
Because from the beginning we essentially don't want to say anything.
No. Oh God. That's true.
So we're starting from I can't say anything at all because people are going to judge me. People are going to hate me. Yeah. What are they going to think of me? Bit by bit, it's baby steps, Jane. And I think that's the biggest awakening I've had is you go through that process, and you will get to the stage. You just have to push through that negative self-chat. The mindset chatter, and just go, in the end, this is going to be amazing, and this is going to change lives. If you can approach it from that mindset, then it will.
Yes.
Then it will.
Yes. Yes. Well, another mention of a great person who helped me is Brené Brown.
Yes.
And Daring Greatly. And Daring Greatly is all about the strength in vulnerability. The strength. It's the trying to veer away from and keep yourself away from touching any of the sore parts. I've never put it quite like this before, but wow, it is, isn't it though?
Vulnerability leads to connection.
Yes.
It's connection.
Doesn't it? And then of course, what does shyness rob us from? Connection. And what's one of the 6 core human needs? Connection. Oh my gosh.
Isn't it?
Yes.
It's quite amazing when you think about it. But,
yes.
So it's been an incredible journey just over the last 12 months.
Yep.
And I'm so excited for next year, where the book's going to come out, the documentary's going to start.
I think we need you a little bit closer there, Joel.
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
lovely. No, don't be sorry, but just to...
So this idea of, the book's coming out next year.
Yep.
And then we've got the documentary, which will be in full swing.
fantastic.
And who knows?
Who knows after
what's
that?
going to come out of that? And it's just sending it out to see what happens. So for me, and I suppose it's my call to action. If anyone wants to learn more about what I'm doing,
please give that
breaking up
contact,
with shyness space.
Yes.
I've crafted a community, and I think as we we're just talking about before, connection is what it's all about. I want to bring more like-minded people together. So if anyone out there listening has felt like you've experienced shyness, and you could do with a healthy dose of confidence.
That's right.
We can connect up, and I'm calling it the Quiet Confidence Community.
The Quiet Confidence Community. That'll do a couple of things for people, I reckon, Joel. A, yes, you'll be able to connect up. B, you'll just be able to see, oh my God, this is a huge community.
Exactly.
I thought I was alone.
It's much bigger than
it is much bigger. You scratch the surface, and people will come out.
Exactly.
People like me will come out and say, yes, I know exactly what you went through as a kid, because it's pretty darn similar to what I went through.
That's right. So, so if you want to get involved, if you want to be part of what I'm working on, you can go check out my website. It's joelannesley.com. So that's JoelAnnesley.com. You can sign up to receive updates for the book, and I've just recently created a Facebook community as well.
Oh, excellent. Facebook's a great tool from that point of view.
We'll be building that over the coming months.
And the Facebook group again is called?
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
Confidence. Yep.
Lovely.
But if you go to the website, make sure you sign up, because what I will be also announcing shortly is I want to bring the community locally, so I'm going to create a meetup group. So,
excellent.
For those that would like to actually meet up locally, let's do it. So go to that website and opt in, and you'll get further emails from me with some more information.
That's wonderful, Joel. Great stuff.
I really think, Jane, that we can change lives through the power of our book. I just think there is so much to it. We all have a story within us, and we might think that the story is pointless. We might think that the story isn't that interesting because other people have done amazing things in their lives, but I'm just an average Joe. Well, that is nothing more than just mindset chatter.
Yes,
Each
exactly.
and every one of us has a very powerful story to tell. Very powerful story.
Yes.
And I think that's what I wanted to get across to everyone listening today.
Beautiful.
That's what it's about, and why I've been so proud to be part of your power writing community, Jane.
Oh,
and
yes.
I love the power. Like that's
Yeah, it's my Power Writers,
Yes.
and I'm about to launch Power Writers Publishing Group as well, because the whole publishing journey is another thing that I just want to simplify for people. I'm really, really passionate about this space because of the difference and the ripple effect of the book. But talking about community and talking about connection, I've heard about a great thing happening in Sydney, literally as we speak, and there will be an art exhibition opening this Friday in Balmain, and it's Her Story. It's about women artists.
Fantastic.
And this is a group now that is supportive, empowering, creating community. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about this, especially if you are a woman artist, but not only, it's not exclusively and a closed community by any means, but www.herstory.com, and you'll find the exhibition opens on Friday. It has a great series of talks as well, some wonderful speakers involved. If you see one of the talks that you'd like to go to, you absolutely, definitely must book in advance. I was told they don't want anyone turning up who they can't fit in, because it's not a big venue, but it's a big program. So check that out at www.herstory.com. Another great thing you can do, just that whole, I think, I think 2018 is the year of community, Joel.
Yes, it is.
And you're setting up a beautiful one.
Yeah.
I'm certainly loving mine. And
community, connection, creativity.
Yeah. Well, Joel, thank you so much for being with me.
Jane, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed this so much.
I know, it's fun. It's fun.
And looking out at the waves, I mean, can't get any better for a Tuesday morning.
And thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. It's been wonderful to talk to you, to be watched by you if you're one of the people who watches us. And if you ever want to listen back to any of this, certainly via Facebook and Bondi Radio, or by my own page, Jane Turner. You can watch these as many times as you like. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, but over and out for now.